That's a big fish.
Are you kidding? Oh my God!
Big mama came out. This is the biggest fish I've ever killed bullfish.
Sun's out, buff's out, baby.
Good job. What a night. Right there in the rock. Look, there's a big one. Nice shot, Taylor.
Get him, Smitty! Doubled up, baby! Hey!
Good shot, man.
There we go. We got two of them now. He's a good gator.
He's a monster.
That's a good gator.
Wow, love bowfish. Come here. Time for a free boat ride in the AMS boat. Hey! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bowfishing Buzz presented by AMS Bowfishing and
Megamouth Bowfishing sponsoring as well.
that's right, my name is Matthew and I'm here with my good buddy D. Schmidt.
Yes, sir.
Wow, is all I can say, Derek.
Yep.
Wow, we just had one heck of a bowfishing road trip here.
We did.
It was exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. But I was glad to get back.
Yeah.
I was glad to get back
I was
home
ready
here.
to be back home in Wisconsin.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think another thing, too, we were talking about this when we were down there, Matt. We missed, for the first time this year, we missed our 2-week podcast schedule. But I think the listeners and viewers would forgive us because
Right.
I'm not sure if we were supposed to do it last week Tuesday or the Tuesday before that. I think
Tuesday.
last week Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So we were either in Tennessee or Missouri trying to shoot fish
Yep.
at that point. So it's not like we just didn't do it. We were out on the water doing all kinds of fun stuff. So that's the reason you guys missed that the 2-week deal there.
Right.
But we're back in the studio now.
Absolutely. Good to be back. Got a lot of stuff that we have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Just a ton of footage, a ton of pictures. And that was one of the reasons that we were on this trip, Derek,
Mm-hmm.
is for photo days and stuff like that there. We actually met up with our filming group there, the Red Shutter Media.
Yep.
They're out of Arkansas, and they met us up in Kentucky. And we did a bunch of photo days out there. And the reason that we're doing that is for the 2023 catalog.
Yep. 2023 catalog. And I think I got written down here. We left, Matt, on Tuesday, April 26th
Yes.
is when we left.
Yes.
Could that be right? It's got to
No.
be. It's
You
got to
were
be
wrong
the
on it. We left
Tuesday
on-
before that even.
We left April 19th.
19th, Tuesday the 19th. Maybe the 26th, that's when we were supposed to do our
Yep.
podcast. Yeah. So we left April 19th. I was going to say that's not long enough ago. We were gone longer than that.
Right. April 19th through May 1st.
Yep.
And I know May 1st because we had to get back. I had to be back for my daughter's 18th birthday because I missed a lot of her birthdays in the past from road trips and bowfishing stuff going on and events. So we actually drove straight through the whole night once we left the Bass Pro US Open where we had the booth set up there. We drove straight through the night. We left at around 7
Around
o'clock
7,
at
I'd
night.
say, yeah.
And we got back home. I got back home I dropped you off right around 6 a.m. Then I got home around 20 after 6.
Yeah. Yep. And just for a kind of a little bit of a rough outline here, so that the listeners can follow along a little bit easier, we started on our road trip. We drove down to Kentucky, met up with the Red Shutter guys, Blaine and Rob. Always good to see those guys. They do some fantastic work for us. And we'll dive into what we did in each day a little bit more. But basically, from Kentucky, we went to Tennessee. Tennessee, we went to Missouri. Stayed down there for a couple days, had a booth at the U.S. Open, and then came back to Wisconsin, and that was kind of that all lapsed over a 2-week span there. So should we dive right in, Matt, to what we were trying to do?
Sure,
What we did
absolutely.
in Kentucky?
And don't forget, if you want to, you can also check out this YouTube video for this podcast here. I'm going to be putting in a bunch of video clips from our trip, Derek, some of the fish that we shot, some of our experiences, some of the laughs, also some of the video laughs in there, Derek.
I
So
hope
what do you
not
think
all.
about that, Derek?
I hope not all the video laughs make it in there. Maybe a couple would be okay, but all of them, I'm going to be embarrassed if all of them
Because
make it.
we got Derek running in his magic shoes.
Oh, yeah. They took me a long ways. And
Mama
just
always said these are my magic shoes. They'll
they
take
could
me anywhere.
And just like a lot of times people think that these trips are, we're just going to go shoot fish.
No, it's
there's always a camera rolling. We always got our brains working. What can we do next? What can we make for content?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, it's very enjoyable to do. But we've also got Carbon TV now that we're a part of, so we're thinking about what we can film for Carbon TV. Catalog pictures, like you said, we knocked off so many catalog pictures.
And it takes, sometimes we'll spend 3 hours doing one set of photo sessions. Yep. So
get the right lighting, the right angle, the right so all the product is in focus and view. It's just harder than I think. I used to think, oh man, that's really must be really fun to just go on a 2-week road trip and do that stuff. It's work, man.
It is.
It's work. Yep. It's fun work, but man, it's work.
Mm-hmm.
It's work.
Yep. And you're away from your family and your friends and stuff for a long period of time too. But I love it. Been doing it now for 15 years.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
Absolutely love it. So Kentucky was a high and a low. We really went to Kentucky to try to hit the buff spawn.
Yep.
Okay. And this is very hard to do when you're 10, 11 hours away from a certain destination.
Right.
I know I was constantly looking at the water levels of the lakes down there. First, they were extremely low. Nothing was happening. There was actually no water back in a lot of those bays at that time. I started looking at the 1st of April and stuff like that. There was no water in there. And all of a sudden, you get a couple of rain showers and stuff like that, and you look at the graphs there, and all of a sudden, it's 2 foot above summer pool. It's like, whoa, where'd this come from? And things happen fast.
Yeah.
So once I saw those water levels up, got a hold of Red Shutter, we geared up, we loaded up, and we headed down there. And
and Dennis Redden was giving us little pointers on what was all going on down there, because we were supposed to leave actually. Probably a week or 2 earlier was the original plan when we were
first
going to go
week of
down
April.
There.
Yeah.
Yep. So that got pushed off.
And if we would have left the first week of April, there would have been no water back in those bays.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So we didn't hit the buff spawn at all. We actually went back in there, and the water was dropping, 6-7 inches a day.
Oh, it's crazy.
When that happens, a lot of those fish feel that pull. They pull out back to the deeper water.
Yeah.
So dropping water is not a good thing when it comes to bow fishing, looking for those fish that are back in those flooded little sloughs and bays that are back in there. In fact, you remember the first time we went back into that bay, Derek, the water temperatures were 57 degrees.
Yep.
It was pretty cold. And a lot of the yellow tops were underwater.
Which is not a terrible thing, right?
No,
I mean, that's kind of what we were looking for.
Right. But then 2 days later, we went back to the same spot. Those yellow tops were 1.5 feet out of water. Just crazy stuff.
And then that water temp went through the roof in 2 days. I think we had what, 65 degrees?
By the time we left, it was up into the 7. It was just around 70 degrees.
That's crazy.
And still zero spawning action at all.
Yeah.
There was some dink short-nosed gar swimming around and stuff like that there, but we shot a largemouth buff that one night, which was odd. I think that's the first largemouth buff I've ever shot in Kentucky.
I remember when you shot it, you're like, it's a big mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yep, for sure.
So technically, we were down there, Matt, during the time frame of, as far as water temperature goes. We should have been down there. We should have gotten there right before the water temp got right. Then we were there. Well, it was right, and then it got a little warm, and we still just.
No, I know.
I don't know.
And it was so funny because we were being pulled from different directions. Some people were saying, "Oh, the buff spawn didn't happen yet." Some were saying, "No, man, the buff spawn is done. They just spawned in deep water this year." So we were being pulled by, do we leave? Do we stay? What do we do? What do we do? Yeah.
By two people who know the waters better than anyone down there. We were getting polar opposite opinions on what the spawn was doing. Yeah, that was tough.
But nonetheless, we didn't get the buff spawn. But I tell you what, Derek, I had a blast bank shooting there below the dams.
Yeah. Yep. That was
getting
cool.
some of those bigheads.
Yep. That's the first time, Matt, I've ever shot from the bank down there.
I've shot from the bank down there, but never really did really good on bigheads, silvers, and stuff like that, but never on bigheads. That first day, Derek, when you and I went down there below the dam, and you were walking down the rocks before I was.
Yeah.
I was like 30 yards behind you, 20 yards behind you, and you were walking down, and you didn't even get to the water, and I looked down, and you were drawing already, and you shot.
That was one of the furthest bow fishing shots I've ever taken in my. I walked over that rock ledge and I looked down there and I was like, what? Why are we not here every day? This is crazy.
And you smoked that grassy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was pretty cool. But I'm telling you, Derek, the thing that really made that part so fun were the people standing behind me watching what we were doing.
Yeah. And we were a couple. We shot some. So we each got down there and we were shooting some silvers and bigheads and whatnot. And I think you turned and looked to me, and I think you turned to me and you said, "We've got an audience. We've got an audience." And you kind of get in that zone, especially down there. You had to be quick on the draw. On these fish. You're kind of
current was so fast that those fish disappeared so quick.
They get boiled up by those boils from the generators running. And then you gotta be ready if a fish pops up. And I remember you said that to me. You said, we got an audience. And I'm like, what? What is he talking about? And so I looked back up there, and holy cow, there was all kinds of people sitting up there watching us.
Yeah. Yep. And then we had an audience come right down on top of us. And that was one of the coolest things, because you're not supposed to take pictures because they're Amish.
Yeah, a bunch of like an Amish dad, and was there 4 boys?
4 boys. There was 2 younger boys and then 2 older teenage boys.
Yep.
And I tell you what, everybody, that was so cool, because as they're standing behind kind of watching, I shot a silver, all right? And I brought it up onto the rocks there, and I said, "Do you want it?" And they didn't want to really speak to me at first. Yep. They're like just shrugging their shoulders and kind of looking around at their dad like, what should we do or what? And finally one shook his head. Okay, so I took it up there and I set it down on the rocks by him. And a little while later, I shot a couple more silvers, and I set them up there in a little pile of fish. And they're just standing there watching me. In fact, the father grabbed some line, because there's line laying all over down there from bank fishermen.
Snags and whatnot.
And he grabbed a long stick, tied that line to the stick, and he found a hook somewhere down there in the rocks. He found a hook, and he was throwing that hook, and I don't know what he had it baited with. I don't know if he found a dead fish there.
I saw that he had on like a white twister tail.
Oh, maybe he found a twister tail, because there's a lot of stuff laying down in there in those rocks. And he was throwing it out there trying to catch fish. Well, the boys were over by me watching me.
Yeah, the dad wasn't catching anything, so the boys just migrated over to where the action was.
Right. So I remember I had like 3 silvers up by their feet there, and all of a sudden, here comes a bighead up along the bank, and smoked them, And I carried it up there, and I said, "You want this one right here? This is a lot bigger." And they're like, finally they were like, "Well, are they good?" And I'm like, "Man, you bet these things are good. They're great deep fried. I mean, they're awesome. You got to clean out a little bit. You got to remove some of the bones, but man, these things are really good to eat." So they're like, "Yeah, okay, we'll take it." And I know I have a hard accent because we heard it a lot when we were down there.
Oh, God, it's crazy.
But their accent was really chopped and broken,
right?
And they're like, "Yeah, we'll take that." So these little boys are carrying these silvers and bigheads all the way up those rocks. Yeah. And pretty soon the dad come down by us, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, all right, I'm thinking to myself, next fish I shoot, I'm going to tell this little boy right here to pull it in.
Bring it in, yeah.
Pretty soon, here comes another bighead. We smoke him. I said, "Here," he says, "pull him in like that right there." So I gave him the line, and this little boy's down there, and he's fighting that in that current there, and he's pulling that fish, and and it was a nice big old bighead. And he took it off, and he grabbed it around the gills, and all up the rocks he goes with that. Down
right
he comes
down.
again. And this whole time, Derek was down for me, and I took up my phone, and I text Derek. I says, "Derek, take some pictures. I'd like to get some of these pictures." So he took a couple of pictures of them. He took some video of them also. And then I shot another bighead, and I was going to give the line again to one of them other little boys. Well, the dad, he come over, boom, he grabbed that line, and he started pulling that bighead in. And he had a big old smile on his face. And
oh, yeah.
So it was so neat to see them come down there to be silent and not want to talk to me.
Right.
To laughing and pulling in these fish and seeing that. And soon they're asking about, how much does this gear cost? How can I get this? Where do I go? So they were really interested in that too, but it was just so cool to see them go, like I said, from being dead silent, not wanting to talk, to having a blast.
Right.
And that right there just goes to show you what bow fishing can do.
Absolutely.
because the father said, I said, you're not going to catch nothing on that little hook and line that you're throwing out there. He said, well, we come here to catch a trout.
Salmon. I thought you said salmon
or something like that. Yeah.
Either way.
No, dude, you're not going to catch none of that here.
Yeah.
You know? So I think they carried up like 10 big heads and like 3 silvers.
Yeah. And just from my point of view, Matt, they were all gathered around you and they were bringing fish up. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, I was over there shooting fish and whatever, and I'd look up and I'd see a Amish boy. I don't know. The youngest one was 6 or 7 years old, I would say. Just 7. A little Schaefer.
Yep.
He's got a big head. It was like he was holding a newborn child. And he is racing up these rocks. And just so everybody knows, I slipped on these rocks when we were down there, and I scuffed up my leg bad. I even said to Matt, I said, I wonder how many people have broken their leg or busted an ankle going up and down these rocks. And that little son of a gun would just... He would fly up the bank, and then he'd get halfway up, and he'd shoot another one, and then he'd turn around on a rock, and he'd have the fish that he was going to take up to the truck in his hand, and then he was watching everyone else having fun down there, and he didn't know if he should go back up or go back down and see what's going on, and he'd race back up there, and then he'd fly back down the rocks. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So then, when we were shooting the big heads and stuff, I called Dennis Red. I said, "Hey, we're shooting some big heads down here below the dam." So he came down there and showed up, and I tell you what, he has a dog.
Oh my gosh,
that goes absolutely ballistic when you either shoot a fish or he sees a silvers jumping.
Yeah,
this dog. You saw the current that's down there. I mean, it's going good. That pecking dog would jump in the water trying to get these fish. We're bringing them in, and all of a sudden, there he goes downriver about 20 yards, and then he gets back onto those rocks, and he comes running right back up there. There's actually a silver that was stuck, that was dead. It was down there, pinched between like the walkway and the rocks, and it was wedged in there. His tail was like sticking up. That dog worked on that fish for 20 minutes.
Yep.
Stuffed his whole head under the water.
Yep. Every inch of that dog's being was being focused into getting that fish out of those rocks.
And he got it.
He did.
He got it.
Yep. Then he comes carrying it over, and he works 20 minutes to get this fish out, and then someone shoots a different fish, and that fish gets forgotten, and he's on to the next one right away.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because I shot a silver at the end, and Dennis was sitting there. He had just cleaned the dog up because the dog just gets his whole face. He's licking him. He's biting at him. And Dennis finally washed his dog's face off, and I shot a silver, and I let that dog roll all over that silver, and Dennis is just sitting there going, oh my, he says, now I got to wash him again.
There's a clip, Matt. You shot a big head, and like we said earlier, we shoot a big head, and we call to the other person, hey, Derek, I got a big head on. Hey, Matt, I shot something here, and then we'll go down and we'll take pictures, and we'll do a product video with the point that we're using. We're always kind of focused on that. And there's a video, I got it on my phone. You're sitting there, everything, the bow is all set up nice in the background, the handle on the retriever's pointed down, the sun is just right, the audio is good, you're holding a big head. So I start filming, and you were just talking about how fun it is to come down to the dam and shoot fish and whatever, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there filming you, and I just see a little black flash fly, and the dog is... You just went through with the video, but the audio... Oh, that dog...
Oh, he's barking nonstop.
He's licking that big head. Oh, my gosh. It'll be funny to watch that back, actually.
Yep. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed, we didn't hit the bus bomb. We made the best of it. We shot some silvers and big heads, and we shot some grass carp.
Yeah.
Got some grass carp also.
Yep.
Nothing big as far as the grass carp go.
Right. I think we shot that day we were down there when it was good. We shoot a dozen big heads probably.
Yeah. And I'd say I think the biggest was right around 38 pounds, maybe right around there, 38, 40 pounds right around there.
Yep.
A lot of them in that middle 20s and stuff like that. But I just love, I know when we first got down there, the first place I went was below the dams. When we first got down to Kentucky, it's just, we don't have that up here, that type of atmosphere where you can, go down by these dams and have access to these waterways that close to the dams. We just don't have access to that here. One, they don't want you up there.
Yeah.
And two, we just don't have that big of systems here like that.
Right. Yeah.
So I just absolutely love that. And seeing the up there below Kentucky Dam, they have that prop. The generators that they use for the generators down there.
Yep, the one that's on display up there.
Yes, and they are they're huge. Yeah. These props that are underwater there, and it's just so neat to see all that stuff. and it's just so different than what we have here. So if you ever get a chance to go to somewhere new, take the time to, to view some of these places, to view some of the scenery, the access that we do have to some of these, bow fishing spots. They're really cool. It's a lot of fun to do,
Yeah, it was cool.
Yep.
And while we were down there too, Matt, we those days that we weren't by the dam, we went out on bodies of water down there, and we did a bunch of photos. We had Joellen down there, and she brought her friend Randy down there. They were fantastic as far as, they both have experienced bow fishing, so they were great for, getting those catalog pictures and everything. They worked really well with us. But then we also got to meet up with Jim Ed.
Yes. And if you remember from a couple of podcasts ago, Jim Ed was on one of our podcasts.
Yep. Gill Fisheries was the name of his commercial netting deal. And you just want to tell everyone a little bit of what we got to experience the day that we went out with Jim Ed.
Tell you what, I got a whole lot more respect for the guys that are commercial fishermen down there that are doing that.
Yeah.
A ton of respect.
Yeah.
So we met up with Jim and his partner, his helper, while we were doing some photos and stuff like that there. And they're like, okay, you guys ready? And first of all, Jim's got that giant...
You say 36 feet? Could it be 36 feet long?
Yep. And it's custom Aquaca boat for his netting down there.
Yeah.
It's a pretty awesome setup. So I said, we're getting ready to go. And I'm like, all right. I says, what do you want me to do? So we threw one cameraman in his boat, and the rest of us, he said, just follow behind me about 300 yards. Just stay behind me because I want to be driving kind of fast, and I want to be doing sonar checks to see where all these fish are. I'm going to try to be making drives to get them all corralled up. He said it might take 5 minutes. It might take an hour.
Yep.
I don't know. Okay. So we take off and we start driving these shorelines, and
we were in a separate boat. We were following.
Yes.
We were following him in his big boat.
Right. And we're following along these shorelines and banks and stuff. And after about 40 minutes, he came over by us and he goes, "See," he says, "I told you it takes a long time." I'm like, "Hey, whatever. We'll just keep going. It's a nice day." So we made a bunch more circles, and after about a half hour, we're following behind him. And all of a sudden, he made a really sharp left-hand turn, and he kind of goosted a little bit. I could see he was going faster. And out of the back of his custom fishing boat there, commercial fishing boat, I could see the nets were coming out. So we kind of sped up to get up there, and he made, as soon as he started dropping those nets and making a big circle like that there, the silver started to jump.
Yep. And we were probably 200 yards behind him at this point. We're like, okay, something's going down right now.
Yep. So we sped up and we got up there, and he made a really big loop, and then he came back around and he dropped some more nets in another looping style.
Yep.
But what was so cool with that is his two nets kind of like intertwined where they come together. So as he's driving that boat, all of a sudden he starts raising that motor, and up over top of the one net he goes and he drops the nets into the other net.
Driving a 36-foot boat over top of his nets. And I remember watching him the first time he did it, Matt. He's got that so down pat.
Right.
He would be bringing the motor up with the till, and it would miss the top of that net laying on the surface by an inch. And as soon as they were over it, back down it goes. Yep. I'm like, wow, he's done this a time or two. Holy cow.
So then what was really cool, once he had the net down, I'm like, okay, there's silvers jumping and stuff like that there. I'm like, okay, that's cool. There's silvers jumping, escaping. They're jumping over top of the nets and stuff, and there's some big silvers. So then what he does, he starts driving this big, giant boat in reverse at a pretty darn good clip, Derek.
Yep, I know.
And what he's doing is he's trying to push all those fish that are in the middle of the nets to the outside to get them trapped into the nets.
Yep.
And he's driving this thing right on the edge of those nets in reverse.
A 36-foot boat. I'm just going to keep saying that. A 36-foot boat in reverse, like it was a little Prius.
And the fish are jumping, and it's going crazy. He's coming at us, and the silvers are jumping up and down. You can see them getting in the nets. You can see all the fish that are in the nets already. And it was so he did that twice. And then after that, he started his co-worker, his worker there, started to pull up on the nets. And that's when I was like, wow. He started to pull up on those nets and put them on the deck of the boat in the front there. And then his wife, Joellen, who was with us in the photo shoot, she's also a commercial fisher. She's right in there. And they're taking these silvers out of the nets, and you got this huge pile. And Jim will slowly go a little bit, forward there, and he'll keep pulling the nets up till they have a huge load of silvers, and they'll spend 5 minutes or 6 minutes or so and throwing all these fish in the back. And so they're done with that. Jim's already going forward, and his partner's sitting there pulling up more of the netting like that there. And when he came to that one corner there where the two nets came together, there was just a lot of silvers that he was lifting up out of that net, and I was like, wow.
I couldn't believe how easy, and I forget his helper's name. I feel bad about that. But I could not believe how he was able to horse. First of all, these nets have they got wood and garbage. There's all kinds of stuff in these nets.
Yep.
And he's just horsing them up. And they get them up, and then Jim Ed and Joe Ellen were sitting there. They had these little pick tools that they would use to grab onto the net, and then they'd be able to pull the fish through the net. And then they're tossing these 10 to 20 pound silvers up over their shoulders into the back huge trough.
Yep.
And I remember sitting there watching them for 5 minutes, and I'm thinking, holy cow.
Yeah.
I'd be exhausted already.
Right. Because then we filmed all this and we're doing all this probably once they started to net the silvers and bring them in the boat. We stayed there for another 25 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And Jim goes, well, how much more video do you need? And I says, well, what are you talking about? He goes, well, we're going to be here for about 3 more hours. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So we did a couple little interviews there, and then we went back to the boat landing. And later that evening, Joellen texted me, and she said that they had right around 7,000 pounds that they got out of that one net. And they said that's an awesome weight for a springtime set.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really good weight. So and what really gets me, Derek, is if you're out there just driving around in a pontoon or in a boat, or you're a fisherman, you're out there fishing, to have Jim put those nets in that small little area and to collect 7,000 pounds of fish just blew my mind, Derek, because how many people don't even know that those fish are underneath there?
Not a clue.
And that was just two little circle nets that he put out there.
There's 7,000 pounds.
7,000 pounds.
Of Asian carp.
Yep.
Silvers underneath that little area.
Yep.
Yeah. I know,
it was
crazy. And then too, Matt, I was talking to Blaine when Blaine was Red Shutter Media. Blaine and Robert with us, and Blaine got into Jim Ed's boat and was filming up there. Mm-hmm. And Jim Ed was walking him through what they were doing and whatnot. And Blaine said they're sitting there watching his big. You see that big sonar screen. I mean, he's got a big old fish finder on there. And he said they were sitting there driving around, and Blaine was filming stuff. And 45 minutes in, I'd say, is when they started dropping those nets, and all of a sudden, Blaine said that Jim Ed said, "Get ready," and Blaine looked down at that sonar screen,
right,
and he said it was like nothing he's ever seen. He said you couldn't tell where fish started and fish stopped. They were just like a big pot of fish, and that's how they find them and go on from there. But yeah, that was really cool to see. That was very interesting. It'd be cool to show that off on the carbon episode when that goes too.
That was definitely a highlight of the Kentucky trip.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. For sure. Yep. And then too, we got to meet up with Dennis Redden. Did some stuff with him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when he came down to the dams, that's when the bigheads pretty much stopped showing themselves.
Everything kind of slowed down there, so he didn't get a chance to get into the bighead action. But,
Yep. And Dennis was busy. He's got some pups that he's bringing up, and he's got all kinds of stuff going on, so he wasn't able to get out probably with us as much as he normally would on a Kentucky trip, but it was great to see him too.
Right.
And just as always, Kentucky kind of just a magic little place.
It's
pretty cool down there.
Absolutely.
But you got anything more you want to add about Kentucky, Matt?
No, I think that's pretty much it. That pretty much covers what we did in Kentucky.
Yeah, we went out a couple nights on Kentucky Lake.
Yep.
I shot my biggest gar.
Oh, you did? That's right. You shot your biggest, your personal best long-nosed gar.
Yep. I remember we were chasing that fish down and shot him, and I had no idea the size of that fish at all until it was boat side. I'm like, wow, okay, all right. That was cool. That was a neat experience.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
But yeah, so Kentucky was fun, and then from Kentucky, Matt, we went a little bit further south down into Tennessee. We're gonna go shoot some fish on Reelfoot.
Yeah.
Went down there.
Yep.
And just a little side story as we're trying to get down there, we had to buy Tennessee license, obviously. So we're trying to find them online, and it was just a big pain in the butt. The website, we had no service, so we're calling around to places to try to find a bait shop or a dealer of some kind that would sell a Tennessee license.
Well, the deal was we were sitting in a motel. It was Sunday, and I had already purchased Tennessee fishing license in the past, but for some reason I couldn't find my bio on their website.
So it was wanting you to make another profile, even though you already then you tried to, and it said that it already existed.
Right.
Yeah.
So it couldn't find me, but yet it said I already had a file there, but it couldn't find me. So we're like, well, now what the heck do we do?
Right.
Well, I said, let's go see if there's a Walmart close by or somewhere we can get a license. And you did a quick little search.
Yeah.
He said, hey, there's a bait shop on the other side of Reelfoot. Let me see if they're, let's see if they're open. So you called him and he said, yeah. He says, I'm open. I sell a license. So we drove over there, Derek.
Blue Basin. I got the T-shirt on right now. Blue Basin Cove Lodge on Reelfoot Lake.
There you go. That's
Tennessee. Cool. So we drove down there, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I just looked it up quick. Oh, called them. Yep, they got licenses. Cool. We're going. We're gonna go drive there. I don't know, 20-minute drive. And we turn off a little road to go down there, and I remember thinking to myself, oh boy,
absolutely no parking.
Well, in the road, we couldn't have met another vehicle with the boat on. And I'm like, what in the world? So we're driving down this little road, and we're getting to where we need to go. And so we roll up on this cute little resort and everything. And so we pull into the parking or lack thereof.
No,
we ended up
parked
on the
road.
road. Yep, parked on the road. We walk into this little store, and there's the guy in there. He's sitting in the back. He's eating something, watching black and white old westerns.
Yep.
I'm like, wow,
yep.
This is my kind of place.
Yep.
We're deep in Tennessee now. And he was a great guy,
awesome.
But I will say,
awesome place.
that accent down there. I had to ask him a couple times, just what did you say? What did you say? But yeah, that's where we bought our licenses. Just a cool little place. He gave us some Lucky Buckeyes.
Yes, he did.
We carried those around. I got mine in my office, actually, Lucky Little Buckeyes. He said they're real lucky. And he was able to pull you up lickety-split.
Well, what happened was in the system, my Social Security number had two numbers that were flip-flopped.
Oh,
he said,
really?
Yep.
Okay.
Because then when you put my driver license number in there, it popped right up.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, we got our licenses there, and then we went on Reelfoot that night, and unfortunately, it just didn't quite pan out like we wanted it to.
It was too late for Reelfoot. The lily pads were up just extremely thick in some of those sloughs and cuts that go through there. And, you need to get there early March.
And that's when we've gone in the past,
right?
Was in March into early April.
Because the lily pads were just so thick. I saw a couple of fish, but the lily pads were so thick, I just saw them for a split second, and they were gone down. You could see the lily pads popping in front of us from fish taken up, but we couldn't see the fish.
Right.
But one thing that was interesting, Derek, is I did not know it, but since the last time I was down there, they had that tornado go through there here just last year.
Yeah.
And I was actually looking forward to going to that Raptor Center where it's a little museum of the whole Reelfoot area. They got a lot of cool artifacts in there on Reelfoot. They got some awesome walkways out there in the trees and stuff like that on the water. Yep. And they have these eagles and hawks and other birds that were injured that they're taking care of there.
We filmed a bunch of it when we went down there the first time in 2016. We filmed a whole segment on it.
Yep. That's where we even took our grass carp and our buffs that we had shot back in those days, and they would freeze them, and we could take them out and feed them to the birds and stuff like that also.
Yep.
It's gone.
Yeah. We kept driving past. A couple times you said, is that it right there? No, that can't be it. I swear it was right here.
Yeah.
And this whole time we're driving down this main drag, if you will, down past Reelfoot, there's trees that are, sheared off halfway up.
There's that one spot where it went right straight through that one section there, and the trees are just all snapped off, and it's like, wow.
So then I looked it up. I think you had me look it up.
Yeah.
Look up Reelfoot Raptor Center, whatever. And the most recent review on it was a 5-star review. I'm like, oh, okay, it's recent. It's from a couple months ago. And the comment was, the Raptor Center was permanently wiped out by the tornado.
Yep, and it said permanently closed.
Yep, gone.
That's
just
terrible.
Erased off the face of the earth. I couldn't believe that.
Because they had so many cool, it was an awesome little museum there with tons of cool pictures and a bunch of Indian artifacts from down there. Mm-hmm. And it's gone. It's too bad.
Yeah.
It was a neat little place to always visit when we went down there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Reelfoot Lake, and this is something I learned on this whole trip, Matt. Lakes here in Wisconsin, you go up north, fishing, ice fishing, whatever, that water level stays almost the same all year round.
Right.
You don't deal with water levels going up and down affecting fishing, so at least I'm not exposed to that at all.
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of foreign to me. In Kentucky and then in Tennessee too. Well, not so much on real foot, but then when we got to Missouri too, the whole water going up and down factor it's challenging to get on any kind of stable weather to stay on fish. Boy, that's tough. That seems like that bit us a couple times.
Yep. And I guess before we get into our next little road trip here to Missouri, Derek, we're going to stop and take a little break here and enjoy this commercial while we step away for a second here.
Why I bowfish. Hunting fish with a bow. Non-stop action. Never slow. By day, by night. Great shots. Great fights. With family, with friends. Trash talk never ends. And kids, they love it. If they miss, think nothing of it. By foot, by boat, by board or canoe. How you do it is up to you. Aim low. Shoot fast. Watch your shadow. Watch the grass. Shoot carp, rays, or gar. Shoot 'em close. Shoot 'em far. Stout arrow. Barb tip. Retriever reel. Let it rip. Bow fishing. Give it a shot.
And welcome back after that little commercial there. So we should get into our next little segment here, the Missouri part of our trip here, Derek. And the main reason that we went to Missouri was to have the booth set up there for the Bass Pro US Open Bowfishing tournament there.
Yep.
And so we got there a couple days early. And we had some more photos that we had to shoot. We had do some more interviews while we were down there and stuff like that.
And Red Shutter they were down there for 5-6 days with us, and then they had headed back home. So now it's just you and me with the camera doing what we can do in Missouri.
Yeah.
In Missouri, yep.
Mm-hmm. So we get down there, and you talk about what you were saying before. The commercial right there, Derek, is water levels. Years ago when I was shooting in the tournaments there, I remember Bull Shoals was like 25 foot above Summer Pool that one year. A couple times it was like that. Mm-hmm. And it was absolutely, just crazy what it was like down there. Now this year it was high, but nothing like it was, back then. But still there was some flooding and stuff like that there. And we went to some spots, Derek, where we had shot the tournament in the past that I had still on my GPS unit.
Yep.
And the water was absolutely beautiful, clear, just gorgeous. And some of them back sloughs, that water was coming down through the fields there, and beautiful green grass down about 1.5 feet. The buckbrush, it was just gorgeous,
crystal clear.
And like I said, we had shot this spot a couple years back in the Bass Pro tournaments down there, and we have done really good there in the past.
Yeah.
Man, this year we shot one common carp in that area, one 21-pound common.
If you could draw up in your head what the most ideal, beautiful habitat would be for shooting fish, you could not have made it any better than the water that we were shooting.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
I mean, like you said, buckbrush, grass, it just was trees, crystal clear water. Oh, it was just fantastic. And there just wasn't fish there.
Nope. And one of the things I think that kind of made the tournament this year a little bit of a struggle for a lot of teams on finding some of those fish was the water was constantly fluctuating up and down. But I also think one of the big factors was the water temperatures were in at 60 degrees when we first got down there. That makes it tough. The water temperatures for that area were definitely colder than what they normally are.
Yep, that clear water takes longer to heat up.
Yep. So I think those water temperatures weren't right for a lot of fish activity. Even the gar, I wasn't seeing a lot of gar around where I was so used to seeing a lot of gar.
Right.
I didn't see a lot of gar when we were out there. Now, granted, we nowhere near did we put a time in on this trip on the water as I would have if we were shooting at tournaments. I would have been on water a lot more, doing a lot more checking, a lot more scouting, and we did a lot more different more different lakes.
And we're doing a lot of our stuff in the daytime because we're focused on, taking pictures and videos and whatnot.
Right. But yeah, and it was definitely a different, like, we didn't get up to Truman because I wasn't going to drive that far. I would have if I would have been shooting a tournament, but I'm not shooting a tournament, so I'm not going to go crazy because I tell you what, people, I absolutely love those roller coaster roads down there.
You saw, there was a couple of those turns, or when we'd come up and then go down fast and up again, I'd be sitting in the passenger seat. He's
over there doing
Oh, I've never been on roads like that before. That was, oh my gosh. And then when we went there the first time, we had like 2 hours of it straight, single lane.
Yeah, when we were coming up from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was crazy. And like you said, you get why they close down when they get an inch or two of snow.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that because back home in Wisconsin, we'll be sitting here and we'll see the weather in different areas of the states here, and they'll be like, yeah, they got 3 inches of snow in Missouri and everything is shut down. I'm like, what?
Yeah, we got 2 feet
Come
up here.
on. What are they cutting? Now I know why.
Yeah. Yep.
Now I know why they shut everything down there because I don't miss driving on those roads anymore at 3, 4, 5 in the morning after being out scouting all night long. I don't miss that.
Yeah.
But and then after we did a little bit of that stuff, Derek, we set up a booth at the shooting academy there, where the tournament headquarters were located there, and we got to set the boat out there in front next to a couple of the Martin Truex.
Yeah, that was cool.
NASCAR and Austin Dillon's Bass Pro Shops car out there, so that was kind of cool. And then in the back part there, they had the band all set up, and they had a bunch of other vendors sitting there, and we got to set up the AMS booth there, and I really enjoyed talking to everybody that stopped by to say hello.
It's the best part of the trip, honestly.
It was awesome. Some of the kids that were shooting tournaments and stuff like that there, and just had an absolute blast just talking to you all.
Yeah.
And but before we were driving from Branson down to the shooting academy there where the headquarters were at, and I was just getting off the interstate there, and I looked in my rearview mirror and I could see smoke coming out of the boat trailer tire. I'm like, oh man, maybe it's just a flat tire. So we got up off the off-ramp there and looked in my mirror there, and I could see my tire was bent. I'm like, Derek, we got some bearing issues back there. So we limped it down the road a little bit into the shooting academy there, and we pulled into the parking lot. It was like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and had to change the bearings out in there.
Yep. You swapped her out pretty quick, pretty good. That was impressive to watch you go to work there.
Well, the nice thing is, Derek, when I ordered that trailer for the boat, I had them put an extra spindle on there with the whole bearing set up right inside of it on our spare tire. So, the nice thing about that is all I had to do was reverse everything out, take the brakes off the trailer, pound out that old spindle, put in a new spindle, put the brakes back on, put the tire on. We were good to rock and roll.
Yeah. And you said that one was tougher because it was the front wheel on the trailer, so there was a brake on that.
Yeah, the calipers are on that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it happens to the rear ones, it's even more fast because you have to worry about the brakes or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But that was it's always nice. So remember that if you're on the roads, and I'm sure a lot of you do when you're traveling to these tournaments, it's always nice to have those extra parts to make those changes, and it just makes life a lot more easy when you can just swap things out like that. But yeah, Derek had an absolute blast at the Bass Pro US Open this year, talking to everybody. It was a really good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, too, just to go back in the wheel bearing, earlier in the trip when we were in Kentucky, we had a flat tire at a boat landing, too. Mm-hmm. And I got blamed because it's,
You were parking it. You were the one who was driving around on the boat landing.
I didn't check the ramp for nails. Silly me. So we get back, and Rob hops out, and he goes, y'all got a flat tire. We looked, and here there's a nail. Yeah, big hole in it.
Yeah.
And you had filmed when we were at Dennis Redden's trailer there. We went into town and got a Roku stick so we could watch some TV in the cabin.
Yeah.
And you filmed the Talladega 500. You recorded it or something.
Yeah, because yep.
And I think that Matt maybe had a little bit of that Talladega adrenaline in him.
Heck yeah.
Because he swapped that flat tire. He jacked that freaking trailer up, and he had that old tire off, new tire on. I'm not going to lie. I bet you it was like 35 seconds.
Well, it wasn't that. I didn't have an impact wrench. Otherwise, it might have been like that.
He was moving like, it's like we sped up the clip like 1.5 speed. He was flying through it, and he got that sucker all replaced, and we're ready to rock and roll. So lots of trailer maintenance this trip.
Yeah. Yep.
That was interesting. But,
like they always say in NASCAR, a second in the pits is 100 yards on the racetrack.
I'd never heard that. That is interesting to think about.
And when it comes to boat fishing,
oh boy,
10 minutes at the boat launch is 5 miles on the water.
Okay, we need to put that. we need to put that on a T-shirt. We gotta sell that on a T-shirt. That's pretty good stuff. But then we had to take that flat tire to a custom auto or something down in Kentucky. That was a cool little store.
Yeah, it was neat.
Gosh, they had all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that was cool. There, it was a lot of rims.
Yeah,
a lot
good
of rims.
Lord.
Yep.
But okay, so I just had to flash back to that flat tire. So we were down at the U.S. Open with the booth and everything. You were saying how cool it is to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And they had Jason Pritchett, country singer, was up there singing, and it got to be time for send off.
Yep.
You know, and we got up there, we did a little prayer, and then they had a plane that dropped 2 professional stuntmen parachute divers out of a plane. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
Well, it's just 2 people jumped out of this plane, and we're all looking up in the sky. Where are they? Where? I don't see them. Oh, there they are. And their parachute were the American flag. Then each of them had banners tied to them.
Yeah.
And they were American flag colors as well. And they were doing, one of them especially, they were doing 360s in the air and going upside down in circles and coming all the way down. And then they landed right in that little construction-y little area down there. That was pretty neat.
That was
to
really
see.
cool.
Yeah.
And as they're coming down, of course, they're playing the national anthem and stuff, and it was really cool. They had a huge flag up there that one was trailing behind them up there, so that was really cool to see that.
Yeah. The venue down there was really cool.
Absolutely. Hats off to J.P. Morris and his whole crew that organized that whole event. It's top notch. Lots of nice money given away at that tournament for the teams that are finishing in the top. I think they paid out 17 spots, and but it was really cool. One thing that is very awesome, Derek.
I think I know what you're saying. This is super cool.
Is of course our AMS Pro Staff team there from Kentucky ended up winning the tournament. Team Descalin, you got Ryan Devine, Tyler Devine, Sawyer York, and Travis Spiceland. They weighed in 423.5 pounds of fish. The cool part about Ryan Devine and that team is I can remember competing against them years ago when I would go to Kentucky, shooting worlds down there, shooting in the Cajun 8 over there.
Where are they based out of? Do they live in Kentucky?
Cuttawa.
Okay.
In that general area.
Yep.
Cuttawa. But going into Ryan and his team have been on the Amos Pro Staff for a while. Like I said, I've competed against them. I've seen them grow from a beginning intermediate bow fishing team to, I'm telling you right now, a well-machined tournament team.
Yeah.
These guys know how to get it done, and it's not like this is one of their first big events. He won last year. He won the Muzzy Classic. Year before he took second. They were in the World's Bowfishing Championship that 1 year, and he did really good in that. But the thing that really gets me with these guys here is how humble they are and how polite they are. That's one thing, even before they were on the pro staff, of what I noticed about those guys is such for a younger team and that stuff. They're so cool and calm, collected. They're humble. They don't go out and brag a bunch. Yeah, they'll post that they won the tournament and stuff.
Right.
But they're not out on social media bragging about, a lot of things like that there. And they're just a great team. And I'm happy to have them represent AMS Bowfishing on the pro staff team. They do a great job. And congrats to those guys on an awesome finish. And the funny thing is, before the tournament, they stopped by the booth to say hello,
Yep. Yes.
And just to kind of tell you how secretive they are about everything and how quiet they are. I'm like, so how's scouting going? You finding any fish? And they're like, well, it's going to be a tough night. It's going to be, we'll see. We did put in a lot of hours scouting. We had 3 boats down here scouting, and
That's
we
crazy.
did a lot of work and stuff. But they really wouldn't let me know what they were onto, and that's awesome. That just goes to show how. Because they don't know what the night's going to go like.
Right.
Yeah, you might have found fish, but are they going to disappear? Are they going to stay there? You don't know.
The last thing you want to do, too, is before the tournament, not a lot of guys do it, but you'll get some guys who say, oh, yeah.
We're on it.
Get ready to see us in the top 5. And there's nothing worse. Those fish disappear on you, and you look just kind of like a doofus. You go the day before telling everybody how good you're going to do because you're on the fish, and then, oh, boy, they didn't even, that can really bite you in the butt.
Yep. So that was really cool. Like I said, we drove through the whole night, and I told Ryan before they walked away, I says, text me in the morning, let me know how you guys are doing, what's going on. So of course, when I got home at 6 in the morning, I slept till I think like 10:30.
Yeah.
And then I got up and I looked at my phone and he said, well, he says we took first.
Well, we took first.
That's all he said. That's all he said.
You win 25 grand? Is that well, we won first.
Yep.
Oh,
so he
okay.
texted me. And I texted him back, of course, and I said, oh, man. I said, that's so awesome. Congratulations and whatnot and stuff. But really cool to have those guys represent us. And
Absolutely.
And, of course, congrats to all the teams that competed in the tournament and all the teams that placed in the money. That's a tough tournament, 220 teams. That's the top of the top right there for sure.
Tough water down there, too.
Tough waters down there, a lot of changes. And also congrats to Lakey Justin Ray and his team on shooting the heaviest fish in the tournament, a dandy 55-pound grassy. Oh. Derek, you know how much that grassy was worth?
God, I don't know.
One fish, a 55-pound grass carp.
$3,500.
$16,600.
What?
That was what the money was for the heaviest fish of the tournament. $16,600.
Okay. All right. Holy cow. That's a heck of a big fish pot right there.
How nice was that?
Wow.
How nice was that?
Wow. I guess you get that many teams putting in for big fish. I mean, is that what it is, or is it a set?
There's also sponsorships that can put in money towards the big fish
gotcha.
pot and stuff like that as well. So.
Holy cow. 55-pound grassy.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. So, great tournament. Had a lot of fun. Thank you all for stopping by and saying hello.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what was funny, Derek, is I don't know how many people walked by and they heard you and I talking.
Oh, I know.
And they turned around and looked and they go, that's the voice that we hear on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just by our goofy Wisconsin accents, you know?
Yep. Some people taking pictures with us on the podcast were like, no way. That's crazy. There was one guy, Matt. It was I forget the team name, but the other two people on the team were talking to us. They're like, yeah, we got a new partner this year, a new shooter with us, and he's been bit by the bug hard. And they said he was going around buying all these boat cases and everything.
He bought a boat down there.
Yes, he bought a boat that he was going to take back, and that was so cool to see someone, get bit by the bowfishing bug. But I don't know if you were talking to the other group. They already knew that we did the podcast, and that guy came up to me and he says, Can you just talk? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And that's all it took. He said, I recognize those voices from the podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh, do we really sound that?
We must sound like a bunch of yahoos.
Oh, jeez. Meanwhile, I can't, I can barely understand how people are talking down there, and I think that they sound strange. Well, it's the same way for them with us.
Yep.
So.
And also, since we're on the tournament talk, Schmitty, we got a big tournament coming up here in 3 weeks.
I can't. How is it that fast? It's May 3rd. I can't believe that.
We've got a big tournament coming up here in a little over 3 weeks. The AMS, 11th annual AMS Big 20 here in Wisconsin at the Marshfield Fairgrounds. $10,000 for first place. So make sure if you're not signed up to get signed up for that. You can go to the AMS website and get all signed up, your whole team.
Mm-hmm. At the morning meeting today, Matt officially handed out the work schedule.
That's right.
For Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday setup, Saturday boat inspections and send-off, and Sunday weigh-ins. And that's kind of like the I've always viewed that as, okay, it's here.
It's here.
It's here.
Right.
It's gonna be Big 20 focused here at work. A lot of that going on here for the next 2-3 weeks here. Yep. So
we got that coming up. So
that was cool.
Looking forward to that again. We are going to have a little bit of confusion, looks like. I'm going to have to stop at the Marshall Fairgrounds. There's a bunch of roads and construction being done right there at the Marshall Fairgrounds. So I'm going to have to go there later this week and figure out what's going to be finished, what's not going to be finished, where teams are going to be coming in. So if you are in the tournament, make sure here next week I'm going to be putting up some directional maps of where you're going to be coming in. So make sure to keep checking the AMS Facebook page. We're going to be updating that map because I got a feeling things are going to change a little bit with that. So just be aware of the constructions that are going on right now. I didn't know about the construction until we left for Kentucky. Mm-hmm. They called me and told me that there's going to be some work done over there. So keep checking back on that. And otherwise, Derek, we had a great bow fishing road trip.
Yeah.
We had a fun time. We got home safe, which is always a huge plus out there.
I do have one sad thing that I didn't tell you about on the road trip.
What's that?
I left my favorite blue AMS cutoff T-shirt at the Hampton Inn.
Well, we're not driving back there to get it.
Oh, God.
Sorry to tell you.
I noticed it last night. I'm like, no.
Was that was the one you were wearing when you were running on your
My magic shoes.
Forrest Gump magic shoes?
Yes.
Mama always said these are my magic shoes.
They can take me anywhere. Yep. So I left that down there, but small price to pay. That's all right.
Oh, that's cool. That's
But
cool.
yeah, it was a fun trip. It was cool. We got back just in time to watch the Bucks whoop some butt.
And you're gonna whoop some butt again tonight.
I hope so. I sure hope so. So yeah, it was a fun little, lots of variety. We did all kinds of different things, saw all kinds of different area.
Scenery, yeah.
And I know we were saying too. This just comes into my mind, Matt. Sorry for going back a ways, but we were like driving on the road, and there's a little camping area down there with picnic tables and basketball hoops. And I remember you just said to me, you said, when we were down here last, we were driving over that picnic table in the boat, and we could like barely see it. It was so deep underwater. That's crazy.
Yep, for sure. Well, you got what's this week's product highlight there, Schmitty?
Well, I tell you what, we'll do the product highlight, then we got to do the quote. We got to put the quote in the boat as well.
Oh, what do you want to do first?
We'll do the product highlight first.
Okay.
And
All
the
right.
video viewers of this podcast are going to get to see the product highlight a little bit sooner.
Oh,
Because Matt and I look a little bit more fancy than we usually do.
heck yeah.
We've got some awesome, well-fitting, good quality AMS flannels. You can see it here. We've got
Very
the
nice.
AMS logo embroidered on the left chest patch there.
Right.
Got a couple different colors available. I do not think that they are available on the website soon, but I know Cindy said something about, we should get a Facebook post out there. She's got to get a couple more embroidered. I think she ordered some more.
Okay.
So everyone be on the look for that. And I was thinking, we were down there, Matt. Actually, Cindy sent me a picture of this one completed. And I remember thinking, man, those first couple cloudy, cooler days,
Would have been nice.
we got the hoodies, and those are nice. Those are fantastic. But just a long sleeve. It's not when it's like cold, but 50, 60 degrees when you could just use some long sleeves. I'm like, man, these would have been perfect.
Yeah, these are definitely bad to the scale, baby. Right
Yeah.
here, man. These
Yep.
are
And
awesome.
their quality. Everything I ever wear is always short when I put my arms out, and these are just fantastic. You can just tell that they're a high quality flannel.
You know what else are good for, Derek? You got a nice front pocket right here. You know that front pocket? Look
Oh my god.
look at it right there, Schmitty.
Moon pie.
Hey everybody!
Oh my gosh.
We got the banana rama moon pie right here, baby.
Oh my god. I didn't even know that you had that in there. I didn't know what you were gonna pull out of there. Good lord.
We have a blast. If you don't know what we're talking about, we got the old moon pie videos that we're getting back into here now. So
Yeah. Tag Moon Pie in all your bow fishing pictures. Maybe we can fish out some kind of sponsorship with Moon Pie.
yeah. And if you do like your moon pies, make sure to take a picture of that with your fish and
Oh, send it in.
send it into the AMS Facebook page or on Instagram.
Yes.
I'd love to see your pictures of your fish while you're bow fishing with your moon pies.
That would be
Yep.
awesome. We did all kinds of Moon Pie videos when we were down there.
We did those two right there. We've got the hit the jackpot of all jackpot was that Bighead.
Yep, that was cool.
That was actually a moon pie vending machine.
Moon Pie vending machine. Yes, it was.
He reached in his mouth and pulled out a crispy old banana man or moon pie and gobbled it up.
Yep. Then we fed some commons with it too. That was a good one.
Didn't do that one yet.
Oh. Never mind. Forget I said that. Forget it. There's just a little tease, I guess, there.
Yep.
Just a little tease. But, yeah, so just be on the look for these flannels. They're, like I said, they're good quality. There's nothing more. I got a ton of them just from my, many years on this earth. And I would say this is by far the best quality one.
They're nice.
They're pretty cool.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
Okay, so product highlight out of the way. It's time.
I haven't gotten none of these right yet neither.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. You're gonna get this one right.
I
I
hope so.
promise you.
Otherwise,
But the
look like a
challenge,
dummy.
the challenge of this one is having to relate it back to bow fishing.
Oh man.
And if you can't think of it, I know what I would say with it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, are you ready
I'm ready.
to put this quote in the boat?
Let's do it.
Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Who said that quote?
There's only one man that talks like that, and that there is Forrest Gump.
There we go. Perfect. That's perfect. Now, relate that to the sport of bow fishing, and even if you're so inclined, relate it to our trip that we just
that's
went on.
easy, Schmitty. That's easy.
All right, let's hear it.
Because to me, Kentucky Dam is like a box of chocolates.
Perfect.
You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
We're shooting silvers. We're shooting grass carp. We're shooting bigheads. Gar.
Yeah.
You just, like I said, right there.
Never know what you're
Never
going to
know
get.
what you're going to get.
That first night on Kentucky Lake, Matt, the first 5 fish that you and I put in the boat were 5 different species of fish.
Right.
Common, buff, long nose, grassy, short nose.
Yep.
And it was right in a row like that. All those different species that you could roll up on and have a blast with.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Oh,
What?
I guess that's our cue. We're closing, Schmitty. Well, we hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. AMS Bowfishing and
Megamouth bowfishing as well.
we hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we hope you're having a blast on the water shooting some of those big old fishies. And remember, aim low.
Think big. Thanks for listening, everybody.